If you talk to the mayor, he says they won. If you talk to the firefighter union, they say they won. Who won? I got to tell you, I think the firefighter union is at least ahead, and I'm guessing the president of that firefighter union, Paul Doughty, in our conversation tonight will confirm that. I'd love to have Mayor Lorza in here to talk about how he thinks he won. We've got some audio that kind of explains it, and we'll do the best we can on that. How are you? Thanks for coming in on the Dan York State of Mind episode for Monday evening. Remember, 7:30 and 11:30 on MyRI TV and Fox Providence at midnight. I'm a little hurting today. That Giant loss last night, we'll talk about it. It's brutal. Let's go to the rundown and talk about some of the things that are on my mind. Then we'll meet the president of the firefighter union and discuss where that whole story is. Yeah, did you catch this on Friday? The governor really needs to have an adjustment on this one. Here's the headline that originally came from the independent newspapers in South County, all about this state representative Donald Lally, whose $87,000 job was uncovered. He resigned in March of this year, saying family concerns, blah, blah, blah. But it seems he had a job wired in the Raimondo administration, sponsored by the Speaker of the House. And the revolving door law is important to understand here. Common Cause, a good government group, is considering an ethics complaint to the State Ethics Commission over this particular hire, because you're supposed to wait a year when you leave elected capacity before you start working for the government, with a few exceptions. And the governor's office is trying to point to the exception, which is that it's a high-level staff position. Well, there's no high-level staff positions at $87,000. In fact, they hired him into the governor's office and then shipped him to the Department of Business Regulation, known as DBR. Governor Raimondo got caught on this on Friday with the reporters, and here's one of the things she said about it.
We hired him into the governor's office to help us on regulatory streamlining and some special projects in the Department of Business Regulation. He's the guy we chose to do the job, and we're going to hold him accountable just like everybody else.
This seems to be a theme. We're going to hold him accountable just like everybody else. Steve Newman, the chief of staff for the governor, was on the oh-so-important Newsmakers program with Tim White and Ted Nesi, and he repeated this mantra of accountability.
He is doing a great job, and we're going to hold him accountable for the work that we've asked him to do. He serves at the pleasure of the governor, and just like everybody else, if he doesn't continue to do a good job, we'll find somebody who will.
When you first hire somebody, you don't start threatening them with accountability, right? You either, this might be something that you keep quiet. They never even listen. When you hire a state representative and it's a big deal and it's gonna be great for the economy and all that kind of stuff, you announce it. They never announced it. The newspaper found out about it, and now they've got to answer for it. That's number one. Number two, they can't remember who actually, or don't want to talk about who actually came up with the brilliant idea of hiring Don Lally, because he's got all this skill set. The guy was a private lawyer. He was leaving. And, maybe he needed some health benefits or something. Maybe there was something in that wheelhouse. But they haven't even been honest, or they can't even remember exactly how this whole thing came, meaning the genesis of the whole thing. Three, they shipped him to DBR, which means he's no longer a high-level appointee of the governor's office, which means it does not exempt from the ethics laws. It is an ethics violation, and Common Cause is reviewing how they're going to file a complaint. And you know what? This just goes to the difference between campaigning and governing. Governor Raimondo said that she was tired of the cronyism. Governor Raimondo said that she was tired of the lack of transparency. Governor Raimondo says there's going to be a whole different kind of administration. And even during the campaign, when the example of Richard Leach, the former director of administration for Governor Chafee, was appointed as Superior Court judge, she had a problem with appearances.
Do you support Director of Administration Richard Leach becoming a Superior Court judge?
No, I think he's qualified, but I think it sends the wrong message. It's time to move past cronyism in Rhode Island.
Game, set, match. Governor, your equity with this community could be blown to bits on an $87,000 patronage deal with Nikki Mattiello, the Speaker of the House. Why don't you just say what it is? At least you won't be dancing around the truth. Accountability. Oh, come on, will you please? Oh, by the way, where's the proof the guy's done any good work? He's been there since July. I must have missed the headline about all the big economic development he's got going on. All right, the option is gone for the Paw Sox, it looks like. Did you see this at the end of the week? Headline, yeah, Rhode Island Hospital has bought this Paw Sox Stadium site. Well, the Paw Sox never thought it was a site, but Larry Lucchino actually took a walking tour of Victory Place. Well, guess what? Victory Place just got gobbled up by Lifespan. So we had a map, right? We have a map of that? We do. So the proposed site for the Paw Sox is the one on the top. That's the 195 redevelopment area that has been so controversial, right? Victory Place is just, over downtown, and I thought, frankly, it's better situated right under 195 by Point Street. Now, the Paw Sox have no downtown alternative other than this property, which is now gone. It only makes it more plausible that the Paw Sox could be out of here. We still don't know what the backdoor deal is. There's all sorts of bumps with Brown and the feds on the 195 land. Mayor Abedisian says, hey, how about work? We had him on last week, as you recall. If you missed that show, go to foxprovidence.com and take a look at that discussion because it was pretty provocative. Will they renovate McCoy and revisit that? I don't know. It seems like we are going to see the chances are getting higher. The Paw Sox are shipping out. I think that would be a shame, but the void of leadership in this thing is profound. How about this one? How about this for an economic idea? Did you read this in Friday's Projo headline? Build a waterfront. Yeah, old Ray Rickman. We got to have Ray back in and talk about this. He put an op-ed piece in. Ray's a former state rep, community activist, consultant, was big on the pools issue in the city of Providence with me here. He says, why don't we do what these guys are doing? The London Eye is on the left, and the Capitol Wheel from Maryland is on the right. And these aren't your average Ferris wheels. Reportedly, you can have an office meeting in one of these suckers, like in one of those carriages. And reportedly, they're great economic development tools. Buddy Cianci thought this was a good idea in his campaign. Remember the drawing he had for the riverfront? That's the Allens Avenue section. And if you look on the right-hand side by the border, by the water there's a Ferris wheel. So Ray's got Cianci's idea. Hey, I'm all for it. If people like to do Ferris wheels and it can bring in tourism, why not? I just know you won't catch me dead. I'm not a height guy, no matter how comfortable those cars are. What are we doing with the Miss America contest? I guess there's a market for it. Some 7 million people watched it on ABC last night. Miss Georgia, in the pivotal moment, with the lights on and the question ready, gave this answer.
Did Tom Brady cheat?
Did he cheat? That's a really good question. I'm not sure. I think I'd have to be there to see the ball and feel it and make sure it was deflated or not deflated. But if there was question there, then yes, I think he cheated. If there was any question to be had, I think that he definitely cheated and that he should have been suspended for that. That's not fair.
Does anybody know what she just said? Later in the show, Steve's giggling because even when we got together on this one, we're thinking, what did she say? After the show, she admitted that she screwed that question up so badly she couldn't believe she won. It might be time to end these pageants. I think when I was growing up and the family watched Miss America, I always had this instinctive feeling that the pageant was there for compensation for treating women as a lesser gender. Honestly, it's always what I felt instinctively. I think we're well past that, don't you think? Don't you think male-female gender identity at this point is pretty much perceived as 50-50? Why do we have to go through this silly exercise? 7 million people still watch it, I guess. It's all about the money. And week one's in the books. Like I said at the top of the show, I've been queasy. Of course, you Patriots fans, who are the dominant members of my lovely audience, are just laughing over the headset controversy.
Tom Brady was back at the office Thursday night under a steady New England rain, and the two-time league MVP put on a clinic. With Deflategate in his rearview mirror, Brady and the Patriots put Pittsburgh in theirs. But it wouldn't be a Patriots game without a little sideline drama. Early in the first half, Pittsburgh complained about malfunctioning headsets, critical in how coaching staffs communicate.
Radio went out, your communications.
That's always the case.
Here?
Yes.
Well, you're saying that every time you play here, you have radio
I said what I said.
Look, I love Mike Tomlin, the coach of Pittsburgh, and he may be right. Of course, Coach Belichick said, oh, yeah, we had problems too. The real problem was covering Gronk, which is something you probably ought to think about doing. But the real disaster for me and the 6 people who are still Giant fans left, just like Republicans in Rhode Island. It's like being a Republican and a Giant fan are kind of the same thing around here. You know there's people out there, but nobody wants to admit it. I'll admit it, but that was the dumbest. You got video of this nonsense. Actually, we don't have the actual video of the dumbest play. This is one of the turnovers that inspired the Giants' lead. That was actually ruled a touchdown as they returned it for, that's the winning touchdown with no time left, 7 seconds, which followed the dumbest play. Yeah, right, Eli. Eli rolled out with the ball on the 1 yard line in a play action pass, threw the ball out of the end zone. Everyone's saying, well, why didn't you just lay down and run the time? Well, why didn't they just go back on 4th and 1 and run the ball into the end zone? Listen, I'm trying to keep Tom Coughlin like a thumbs upper, but he looked like he was senile. And afterwards admitted he'd screwed the whole thing up. There's no screwing up in football, at least when you're a coach. Ask Belichick, he never does. Your thoughts are important to us, of course. 228-1886, State of Mind at MyRightTV.com. Email us. Of course, Facebook posts seem to be a popular way of getting in touch with us. Go ahead and fire one up here. The former state rep you had on Friday, about 38 studios, was good. I think you may find he has the ability to see the future, primarily because he couldn't be bought. I wish there were more people like him in every level of government. Well, I'm sure Bob Watson will be very happy to hear that, the state representative who told his story about making that kind of Carmack, Karnak? It was Karnak, right? Not Carmack. Carmack is different. That's a ground. Karnak speech on 38 Studios. And if you missed that conversation, you should watch it on foxprovidence.com. Anytime you miss a show, watch it there. All righty. Paul Doughty, I think he thinks he won, but the mayor thinks he won. Who won? Next. So today there was a development in this story, but let me go back to the end of last week where the real meat of the development occurred. Here's the headline on WPR.com. Judge, Alorza Fire Union dispute can go to arbitration. This is all about the decision to move from 4 platoons to 3 without a financial deal. The union saying, we don't have a financial deal, and you've got to negotiate a financial deal. And the judge said, you know what, okay, you're right. Of course, the city has a right to make the move, but they've got to negotiate the details financially, and Mayor Alorza thought he won the case somehow.
So we're very excited about the judge's ruling. The judge agreed with them on the procedural point, which is basically we have to go through this hurdle.
The judge agreed that the city has the right to move from 4 platoons to 3, but also stated that the compensation should be resolved through the grievance procedures laid out in the city's existing collective bargaining agreement.
The issue about changing shifts is really a distractor. You can change the shifts if you want, but you can't make me work whenever you want for as little pay as you want.
The platoon shift change started on August 1st, and the city gave firefighters an 8% pay increase for a 33% increase to their work week. The mayor says the overall goal is to cut back on spending.
Yeah, well, Paul Doughty is the man in the story, the Providence Firefighter Union president, no stranger to the show. You think you won?
I know I won. The judge said so.
He thinks he won.
I'm not sure he's read the decision. Clearly what we asked for is what the judge agreed with, and what they didn't want is not what they got. So there's only one winner.
Here's the thing, and we'll talk about this in this next segment. We'll talk about why the mayor thinks he won, but he made a motion to dismiss the case that caused him to win. We'll talk about that in a second. That was a development today, but let's go backwards. Let's remember what happened here. Back in the spring, Mayor Alorza made a unilateral decision that he was moving from 4 platoons to 3, meaning 4 shifts to 3 shifts. He gave you 30 days to react to it. You guys couldn't come to an agreement on the compensation, and eventually you said, you know what, we're gonna file a lawsuit. This is ridiculous. In the midst of that, he gave you an 8% increase.
Right.
Okay, the hours are 33% more on average. He gave you an 8% increase. Have you accepted that increase in your paychecks?
Well, we don't have a way to put it out. We're in the process of filing a grievance right now on it. He can't negotiate with the union.
You don't want the money. You don't want the short money.
No. So he did put it in, but there's no practical way for me to stop that money from going to the paychecks right now.
But I know that you were going to say that you didn't want the money. So is there a way for you to
only
move
by
the money?
grievance?
Okay. So guys are taking that money and putting it in their paychecks as we speak.
Yes.
I think it's a small logistical point anyway. So you went to a judge saying, listen, we think our contract calls for us to be able to go to arbitration on this.
That's exactly what we asked for, and that's exactly what he said.
The judge did say, hey, the law does provide for the management rights of a city to go from 4 platoons to 3 platoons. The law also requires that you must fairly negotiate with the firefighters in order to be able to execute that, and he has not done that to your liking, so you have the right to say, I want to go to arbitration.
Correct.
What have I missed here?
Nothing. I'm wondering what the mayor missed, because there's no way he can characterize Judge Lanfear's decision as a victory for the city. He was opposed to what we were awarded.
Any arbitrator, you guys can fight all day long about who should be the arbitrator. Any arbitrator is going to look at this and say, okay, let me do the math on this. You guys have to work another 33%. You got to be paid at least close to that. So, Mayor, why don't you pay them at least close to that and let the chips fall where they may on this promise to save so much money?
This is the problem, and I'd said that the minute the court says we go to arbitration, the mayor's effectively lost all the way to the end, because once it's an arbitration that you look at the contractual language, it's black and white. You can't say maybe, maybe not. It's yes or no.
What's yes or no?
That our regular work week is 42 hours, yes or no? If we work more than 42, you pay us time and a half, yes or no? Those are what the arbitrator will be, the questions the arbitrator will be answering. And there's no way, in my experience and in my opinion, that he's going to say, yes, you can make him work more than 42, because the contract says the regular work week is 42 hours. It says if you work more than 42, you'll be paid time and a half. It's really a fundamental, and anybody with even a passing knowledge of arbitration would understand that. So he's effectively won, in our opinion, all the way through arbitration, despite the fact that the arbitrator hasn't looked at it yet. It's that clear of a case.
He's effectively lost, you mean?
Lost, I'm
not,
sorry.
Not lost.
Yes.
Honestly, it feels like a very one-sided conversation. Mayor, you're more than welcome to come here and explain your point of view, but every time he explains it, he actually creates
a lot more confusion.
Well, he creates an essay about how he lost. You have to be laughing inside almost, because I mean, your guys are out there working extra hours. It's not a laughing matter. A lot of guys retired early. This is not a laughing matter. Firefighting is not a laughing matter. But the way this thing is going is almost so silly, it's shocking.
It is, and sometimes it's hard for me to think that, you know, someone as smart as he is, Harvard judge, all that stuff, law professor, could come to these crazy conclusions that would support and fuel his efforts to try and change the shifts, cut our pay, and extend our hours. It's just incongruent, it's illogical, it's irrational. And somehow he can thread the needle through all those and think that it makes sense to him. It's only him. Him and his lawyer are the only two that believe it.
There was a development today. We'll talk about it next.
We have to have a final order, a final judgment from the judge, and then that starts the clock. And then after that, you decide whether to appeal or not to appeal. So we might just go straight to arbitration. We might appeal to the Supreme Court. But the important thing is that on the substantive question, on the important question, the judge sided definitively on the city's side, and that's very exciting that this is a management right.
Oh, God. I mean, you almost want someone to say, Mayor, come here. Let me sit down. Let me
Were
explain.
you watching the same TV show we were, Mayor?
Like, would you please?
It was never in dispute. That part of the case was not in dispute.
You have a right to change the platoons, but you must find a way to pay for it, and you must negotiate your way to pay for it. So if you can't come to a conclusion with the firefighter unit on how to pay for it, you can't Do it.
And Dan, that segment shows the difficulty we've had having any discussions with him because he believes his own, you know what. And the judge, in his decision, says the parties agree on that issue. The judge did not decide that. That's almost a flat-out lie that he's telling people that the judge definitively decided.
Right.
No, he didn't. We together agreed. The judge didn't decide that.
Well, what's interesting about that remark to Eyewitness News late in the week is that he thinks he's got two options, to appeal or go to arbitration. He came up with a third option today. Today, go to WPRI.com, and Dan McGowan. This just came up just as we were beginning the show today. They've decided to file a dismissal of the lawsuit request, which is something that you do before a judge adjudicates. You don't do it afterwards.
This has been the most baffling.
Why would he dismiss something that he won?
Exactly.
He said he won. Why would you ask for a dismissal?
I'm certainly not asking for it to be dismissed. We're happy with the award. It said what we wanted it to say. It said what we fought on, that you have to go to arbitration.
Yeah, but he said he won.
He didn't win.
But he said he won.
I hear him.
Why would he ask for a dismissal of the case that he said he won?
This is part of the problem that we've experienced in dealing with him.
Do you think he knows he's slinging it or doesn't know he's slinging it?
I'm not sure he knows. And that's the most frightening part, because we expect him to run the city, to keep it fiscally sound, and make good, important policy decisions. And if he can't understand that he lost that decision and that you file dismissals before the award comes out, Providence doesn't stand a chance.
How long do you think this will take to get through arbitration?
Well, it depends if he appeals it to the Supreme Court. It could be as long as 18 months. There's a process for arbitration where we could be done as quick as a week. It's my position that he should...
I can't imagine the lump sum payment that comes to the firefighter union 18 months from now with all of these hours worked and a judgment that says time and a half when he could have negotiated probably 25, 28% and choked you with it. There's a way to beat you, Doughty.
I know.
This is not the
way
to beat you.
You could, he can't.
I mean, by the time you get
our estimate is it's $12 to $20 million.
Oh my God.
$12 to $20 million.
At what point?
I don't want the money. We don't want it. We want it back to the way it was, and then come ask us to help you, and we will.
And renegotiate a new contract.
Sure. Yep. We'd look at some stuff. And even from a more practical point of view, this contract, let's say he doesn't like any part of it, he can renegotiate the entire thing in 2017. So why not wait instead of risk all this money and the future of the city on what's really a fool's errand? He's not going to succeed. I can't imagine anyone except him and his inner circle, which I think is a lot of yes people going, oh yeah, man, great idea, think they're going to win. They're the only ones that think they're going to win.
It's almost like you're the guy, you know, in the Agent movie there, you know, help me help you. Like, well, what's the movie? The Agent, the sports agent.
Show me the money.
Show me the David. Jerry Maguire. It's almost like you got to say, Mayor, help me help you,
or show me the money, one or the other.
Oh my God, we got to stop now. Or it's just going to feel like beating up on him.
I understand.
Mayor, please come. Please come and explain why you think you won and what you're doing.
Send a surrogate.
Somebody. We'll be right back. Honestly, if you're a City of Providence resident, you've got to ask yourself what's happened here, because Mayor Lorza thinks he wins when he doesn't. That's not good. So, Mayor, come explain to us why you won. I'll be nice. I'm all ears. The Fox Point Neighborhood Association tomorrow night, they say no on the Paw Sox Stadium. Another group. See you on the radio at noon on WPRO as well. Thanks for watching. Good night.